These days, I'm pretty skeptical when companies reach out to me and offer me freebies. Most of these kinds of free things that we get offered as YouTubers are pretty underwhelming or pretty weird. But as it happens, I've actually been looking for a tech pouch and a toiletry bag or a dopp kit for my overnight stays with friends and family. So when this company called Side by Side Gear reached out to me and offered me their tech pouch, which they called the Power Packer, I was actually pretty interested, especially because they also offer a toiletry bag or a dopp kit called the Travel Packer. So I asked Side by Side Gear if they'd be happy to send me both of these bags in exchange for a video where I can look at both of them as kind of a pair of products, because I think if you're going to go away, both of these items work perfectly. You've got one for your tech stuff and one for your toiletry stuff. One of the main issues I always have when I try and create a kind of tech storage pouch is this idea of overfilling. So I was really interested to see that their outer fabrics that they use on this tech pouch are actually kind of elastic. They stretch in any direction. And I thought actually this might be quite an interesting design product and it's worth a look. So many times I've been in a situation with a zippered bag and it's just not closing because I've kind of stuffed too much stuff in it. So I thought at least this design might have a chance at solving that fundamental problem with this kind of bag. So like everything on this channel, I wanted to be sure that this was a real life review. So I've actually been using both of these bags in real life situations, and I do use them still day to day as my primary travel bags. So it's obvious from the outset that these bags are definitely much more on the utilitarian side than the stylish side. They don't look nearly as cool as the items from Bellroy and Peak Design and other kind of more fashionable items, but they are really well thought out. They're extremely practical and they're not that expensive. So what's interesting about these is the choice of materials. They're really not choosing materials for their aesthetic qualities here at all. It's just all black and there's this kind of weird pattern on the inside lining of the toiletry bag as well. But the materials have all been chosen with a very practical use in mind. So we've got this stretchy fabric on the tech bag, and then the toiletry bag is sort of, obviously you've got the transparent material, which is really useful, and it's all wipeable and waterproof as well. So it's very much functionality based selection for the materials. And the build quality is brilliant. They feel really well made, super tough, very well put together, and a good high quality feel to them. So if we look at the Power Packer features first, we've got the main kind of two sections with the zip. So on the one side, you've got this 3/4 length zipped area, which is actually directly inside the stretchy fabric. So this is a great place just to stuff things. And it can easily swallow something like this 20-watt USB brick, which is normally quite a chunky thing. You can get really slim portable USB bricks, but it's much easier just to grab a decent solid USB brick that you've got, and you can stuff that in here without any problem at all. And the stretchy fabric just accommodates it without any impact on the ability to close the zip. So I can actually fit this USB power brick and a battery bank in this side with no problem at all. Now, the other advantage to having a stretchy fabric, of course, is it naturally puts a bit of tension on anything you put inside, which means things don't slide around inside there. I think that combination of obviously being able to accommodate large items without affecting its ability to be closed, and the fact that it stops things sliding around inside, actually makes this the perfect choice of material for this kind of product. So on the other side of this bag, we've got the full opening area where it will open actually completely flat on itself. The zip goes all the way around, and we've got the elasticated stretch fabric on the outside of this as well. But on the inside of this face, we've got elastic loops. But of course, what actually happens here is because the stretchy on both sides, it's actually quite difficult to keep enough tension on those loops. So when you put something in there, it doesn't seem to have that much tension. So when I put this dock for the iPad in there, it's not super snug. So obviously you could just use larger items here, but for the things that I'm carrying, it ended up that the size of the items in this area are not quite big enough for these elastic loops. So inside this area, we've got this double-sided divider with more loops and pockets on that you can stuff stuff in. And you've got this clear flat pouch, which would be good for things like memory cards. Obviously, being clear, you can see inside when you're poking your finger in, and that works well with something flat, because obviously you wouldn't normally be able to see inside that unless it fully opened, and then you risk the chance of everything flying out when you open it. So again, that choice of a clear material for this flat pouch is actually quite effective. So my format for kind of the things I carry in this bag when I'm going for an overnight stay, I have obviously this USB charging brick, and that is used mainly for charging the battery bank. And then I charge my devices with the battery bank, because you never know where the plugs are when you go and stay at someone's houses. So I think it's generally much easier just to think in terms of using a battery bank as your primary charging source, but then obviously you need a way of charging that. So I think that flexibility offered by carrying the charging brick and the battery bank is quite a good way of doing things. Normally it's quite difficult to carry those items because of the size of these charging bricks, and this bag really does solve that kind of problem. So there's another interesting thing about the design of this bag, and that's its overall shape. So it's obviously quite a long and thin design, but that means it can be very easily grabbed with one hand. So you can put your whole hand around it quite easily, pick it up. It means it's easy just to grab it and go, which works quite well. It makes it feel quite packable and quite chuckable. Generally quite a nice thing just to grab and go with. It's got this non-adjusting strap on the top, which I'm not quite sure what its primary role is. It's sort of too tight and too awkward to use as a carrying handle. You can use it to hook it on things, but it's because, again, it doesn't really separate from the bag very far. You end up with it's sort of twisting and it's a little bit awkward depending on the thing that you're hanging it on. So I'm not super thrilled with that element of it, but the overall kind of dimensions of the bag are perfect. You know, it's just big enough for things like battery banks, which do tend to be that longer, thinner shape, and you can wrap up your wires and stuff them in the loops, and it all just kind of accommodates your stuff very well with that ability just to grab it and go with one hand. So it does its job pretty well, and at a much lower price point than the stylish products like Bellroy and Peak Design. Obviously you are losing that element of style, but you are gaining the super practical fabrics and the attention to design in that really practical sense with these products. So onto the dopp kit, or the toiletry bag. Now this is a really simple design. Basically you've got this modular box based idea. So you've got the clear plastic boxes, and they've got Velcro on the back which sticks them to the main outer case. But the really interesting thing about this is that you can actually open the main outer case and hang it vertically somewhere, and of course those clear containers will stay in place due to that really strong Velcro. And then the orientation of the zip on the clear containers means you can actually have it open at the top and keep the zip done up a little bit on both sides, so that when it's upright like that, the stuff doesn't fall out of those containers. So they actually work vertically while this thing is hanging. And of course you can actually take the plastic things out of that from the Velcro and store them somewhere else if you wanted to do that as well. So actually for its purpose of being a toiletry bag where you've got your stuff and you want to kind of set up in a bathroom, it can be very discreet. You can kind of keep everything all hanging in place and just hook it on the back of a door or something like that, or over the top of a shower frame, and all of your stuff can be easily accessed from that hanging position without stuff flying out all over the place. And you can leave the zips open at the top. You haven't got to keep zipping everything up and to stop stuff falling out. So the whole approach there works really well. It looks pretty weird, all this clear shiny plastic and wipeable surfaces. Obviously it's not a super stylish thing. Again, we're definitely not getting points for the design visually of this thing, but practically speaking this is all perfect, of course, for this kind of thing where you might have something in a bottle leaking out or whatever. You just want to be able to wipe it clean, and of course being clear, when you put your hand in you can see what you're taking out, and of course that works particularly well with this vertical idea where essentially the face is kind of still semi-shut because it's holding the stuff in there, stopping it falling out. So to be able to see through it, it makes all of that work. Now, before they sent me these bags, I was looking for a bag like this that I could actually set up in my own bathroom at home with everything in and use it as my kind of day-to-day storage for all of my stuff in the bathroom. So my stuff's not spread out all over the bathroom, which means when I do go away traveling, I can literally just fold this up and zip it and go. I haven't got to keep this kind of separate set of doubled up everything with a travel version and a home version. This is practical enough as my day-to-day storage system for all of the stuff in my bathroom. So I keep shavers in here and toothbrush and toothpaste, and that's where it lives in my house day to day, as well as for when I go traveling. So whenever I want to leave the house with all of this gear, I know it's already in there. I haven't got to run around and get that kit together. I just fold it up, basically close the inner containers and fold it up and zip it together, and I'm done. So I think both of these bags really have been quite thoughtfully designed in terms of their practical use, and that's really important for a bag with this kind of role. I think it's not something that you're wearing in public. It's obviously you're just using it for travel, and it just sort of goes in the bigger bag and you get it out at the other end. So the fact that they're not super stylish, it's not so important to me. I'd rather these be practical in the way that they really are. So yeah, really pleased with them. And because of the price, I think I actually would have just bought both of these had they not been sent to me for free. So yeah, definitely happy to recommend these products from Side by Side Gear.